Christopher Nolan's unofficial rule about sequels makes what would be an incredible film essentially impossible. Nolan, who is fresh off his dominant performance at the 2024 Academy Awards with Best Picture winner Oppenheimer, has notably never made a sequel or prequel film outside of his historic Dark Knight trilogy, a series of films that greatly influenced superhero movies as we've come to know them. Nolan has never overtly stated that he refuses to make a sequel to his popular original concepts such as Inception and Tenet, but the fact that Nolan has not considered making sequels to any of his movies makes his stance pretty clear. All of Nolan's movies outside of the Dark Knight trilogy are typically very full-bodied and independent of each other, meaning that there is very little overlap, if any at all, between the plot, characters, and story worlds of his movies. At one point in time, Tenet was believed to be a direct sequel or at the very least a spiritual successor to Inception, only for that rumor to be completely thwarted upon the film's release. While Nolan's original concepts in all of his films are thematically and visually similar, they exist as entirely standalone pieces despite some of them, particularly Inception, having the potential to expand. Based on Nolan's track record as one of the most prolific working directors today, he does not seem interested in exploring what a sequel or even a prequel would look like for any of his films, including Inception. Because it is so rich in its unique and compelling story world, Inception would be the best candidate out of all of Nolan's films to be made into a franchise if Nolan had any interest in doing so. Given the famously ambiguous ending of Inception, a sequel could potentially answer the now timeless question of whether Cobb was still dreaming when he reunited with his kids. While an Inception sequel could add a definitive answer to the ending's biggest question, it would also ultimately lessen the impact of Inception's classic conclusion. This is why if Nolan were to do anything about making Inception a franchise, the best choice would be to create an Inception prequel that could explore the origins of the dream-invading technology and its agents. The Inception prequel wouldn't necessarily have to feature Cobb as a young man or get into how his character got into the business of stealing information in dreams, but it could instead get into how the technology and business itself were created. After the massive success of Oppenheimer, which was notably one of the few films written and directed by Nolan that was adapted from a book, the filmmaker can essentially make any movie he wants. While expanding the Inception universe with a sequel or prequel would certainly cater to his most loyal fans, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense considering the trajectory of his career, which is certainly at an all-time high right now. Nolan's next project is rumored to be a modern remake of The Prisoner, a psychedelic British sci-fi mystery miniseries from the 1960s. Nolan is not a traditional studio director in the way that others are brought on to maintain the integrity of massive franchises, such as Westball, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, The Maze Runner, Adam Wingard, Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, and Louis Leterrier, Fast X, The Incredible Hulk. His work on the Dark Knight trilogy was the most he has ever done working on a major studio's intellectual property, which explains why Nolan is not naturally prone to making sequels. Any movie that Nolan makes, especially at this point in his career, is going to be about a subject he's passionate about or a new, highly original concept. As great as an Inception prequel or Tenet sequel might sound, The Prisoner remake sounds even more enticing. Nolan is celebrated as one of the greatest screenwriters and directors in Hollywood because of his profound, singular vision. It's because of this that many people would watch something as mundane as an infomercial if Nolan was directing it. Filmmakers who are brought in to direct massive sequels are usually working closely with the studio's producers, while Nolan, alongside his producer and wife Emma Thomas, is a true tour de force and creative powerhouse. Much like fellow film auteurs Quentin Tarantino, David Fincher, and Martin Scorsese, Nolan has certainly earned the right to make a movie about just about anything he desires. The same question can be asked to Tarantino about why he never made a Pulp Fiction sequel and to Fincher about why a Fight Club movie sequel never came to fruition.